First Contact Protocol. The Coruscant Empire had conquered 17 star systems in the last century alone. Their warships were feared across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, their technology unmatched except by the most ancient of civilizations. Commander Varric had personally overseen the subjugation of the crystal beings of Althera and the silicon lifeforms of the Nexus cluster. His name was whispered with dread throughout known space. And yet, as he stood on the command deck of the Ravager, his flagship and pride of the Coruscant fleet, he felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping through his exoskeleton. Unease. "Show me the target again," he ordered, 6 eyes narrowing as the holographic display flickered to life. A small blue planet appeared, rotating slowly, third from an unremarkable yellow star on the fringes of the galaxy. Most of its surface was covered in water, with scattered landmasses showing signs of civilization. Primitive roads, clusters of buildings, energy signatures that barely registered on their sensors. Earth, Science Officer Lycara said, her scaled fingers dancing over the control panel. Native dominant species calls themselves humans. Pre-FTL civilization. No unified planetary government. Multiple nation-states in constant conflict. Technologically primitive but surprisingly resilient. Threat assessment. Varric asked, mandibles clicking impatiently. Lycara's forked tongue flicked out, a sign of amusement among her species, minimal to non-existent. They've barely touched their own moon. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear fission devices, and they have no planetary defense systems we can detect. The Strategic Intelligence Officer, Krell, stepped forward. Unlike the others, his race was mammalian, covered in thick gray fur with 4 arms that ended in dexterous paws. "There is something unusual about this world, Commander. The galactic records show previous contact was attempted over 3 centuries ago. The expedition never returned." Varric waved a dismissive claw. "Likely incompetence or mechanical failure. Our empire was still in its infancy then." "Perhaps," Krell said, but his ears flattened against his skull. "But there have been rumors, whispers among the trading outposts. Earth is quarantined for a reason." "Superstition," Varric snapped. "The High Council has tasked us with cataloging all sentient species in this sector. Earth will be assessed like any other world." "Of course, Commander," Krell said, bowing deeply. Varric turned to his first officer, Thax, a hulking figure whose species had evolved in a high-gravity environment. "Prepare a scout team. Standard reconnaissance protocol. No engagement unless necessary." "Yes, Commander," Thax rumbled, skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated acknowledgement. As the crew dispersed to their stations, Varric remained studying the holographic image. Something about this insignificant world nagged at him, an instinct honed through hundreds of campaigns. But the Empire required new resources, new genetic material, new slaves. And Earth, with its biodiversity and abundant water, would make a fine addition to their holdings. 3 days later, Varric was beginning to understand why Earth might be considered cursed. Another scout ship lost. He hissed, slamming a claw down on the arm of his command chair. "That's the 3rd. "Yes, Commander," Thax confirmed, his bioluminescence dimmed with concern. "All contact was lost as soon as they entered the upper atmosphere. No distress signal, no debris detected." The Coruscant fleet hung in high orbit around Earth. 15 warships of varying sizes arranged in standard assault formation. They had been observing the planet for 72 hours, sending automated probes, and when those returned with bewilderingly inconsistent data, manned scout ships. None had returned. The humans couldn't possibly have the technology to detect our stealth systems, let alone disable our ships. Lycara insisted, checking her instruments for the dozenth time. "Our scans show nothing beyond primitive satellite networks and basic radar installations. Then explain what happened to our scouts," Varric demanded. Silence fell over the command deck. None of his officers had an explanation that made sense. "The humans are broadcasting something," Communications Officer Ziv announced suddenly. A diminutive being composed primarily of translucent gel, Ziv's species specialized in signal interpretation. It's directed at our fleet. Varric straightened. They've detected us. Impossible. The signal is unusual. Ziv continued, gelatinous form rippling with confusion. It's using one of our encrypted frequencies, but the content is, I'm not sure. Put it through, Varric ordered. The ship's speakers crackled to life. What emerged wasn't language, at least, not any language known to the Korishan translation matrices. It was music. Primitive, rhythmic music interspersed with a single repeating human voice. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. What is this nonsense? Varric snarled. Is it some kind of code? Unknown, Commander, Ziv replied. But it's being broadcast on a frequency that only our fleet should be able to access. A frequency we've never used near this system. Varric felt his carapace tighten with growing tension. Scramble our communication protocols. Full encryption reset. Done, Commander, Ziv confirmed after a moment. But the signal has already adjusted. It's still coming through. Never gonna run around and desert you. The music continued, oddly cheerful yet increasingly menacing in its persistence. Shut it off, Varric ordered. The speakers fell silent, but now the command crew was exchanging nervous glances. How could a pre-FTL civilization access their communications so easily? How could they adapt to encryption changes in real time? Commander, Security Chief Mord called from his station, voice strained. We're detecting anomalies in the ship's systems. Power fluctuations, data corruption. Something is accessing our network. Varric spun toward the security station. Impossible. Our systems are isolated. Not anymore, Mord replied grimly. Whatever it is, it's spreading through all 15 ships. Crew reports strange phenomena, equipment malfunctioning, unexplained sounds, visual distortions. As if on cue, the lights on the command deck flickered. The holographic display of Earth twisted, the image distorting into what appeared to be a human face, smiling, before returning to normal so quickly Varric wasn't sure he'd seen it at all. We're being hacked, Lykara asked incredulously. By humans. Ridiculous, Varric said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Their computational systems are primitive beyond measure. Commander, Krell interjected, what if we're not dealing with standard human technology? What if there's something else on that planet? Something our scans can't detect? Varric considered this. The Korishan Empire had encountered ancient technologies before, remnants of long-dead civilizations that sometimes defied understanding. Perhaps Earth was home to such artifacts, now wielded by the humans. New signal incoming, Ziv announced, their gelatinous form now pulsating with anxiety. Text only, translated to our language. The message appeared on the main screen. We see you. This is your own. Hey, leave now. A bluff, Varric declared, though less confidently than he would have liked. They're trying to scare us off. Commander, Thax said quietly, perhaps we should withdraw to a safe distance and report to the High Council. Request additional. Absolutely not. Varric cut him off. I will not flee from primitives. Prepare the main fleet for descent. We'll establish a foothold on their largest continent and begin the standard subjugation protocol. His officers hesitated, an unprecedented response that sent anger surging through Varric's system. That was an order, he bellowed. Reluctantly, the crew complied, sending the commands throughout the fleet. 15 Korishan warships began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere, weapons primed and invasion forces ready. It was the last order most of them would ever carry out. The first sign that something was catastrophically wrong came when the Desolation, their second largest warship, simply vanished from sensors. One moment it was there, the next, nothing. No explosion, no debris, not even a distress signal. What happened? Varric demanded. Unknown, Commander, Mord replied, frantically checking his instruments. It's just gone. Before anyone could process this, 3 more ships disappeared in the same manner. Then another 2. Pull back, Varric ordered, finally rattled enough to retreat. All ships, maximum thrust, break orbit immediately. But it was too late. On the external cameras, they could see their sister ships being disassembled. There was no other word for it. It was as if invisible hands were peeling their hulls apart layer by layer, methodically and with terrible precision. No weapons were visible. No enemy ships detected. How is this possible? Lykara whispered, scales pale with terror. What kind of weapons can do this? Not weapons, Krell said, voice hollow. Look closer. The magnified view showed something moving across the hull of the nearest dying ship. Tiny specks, swarming like insects. As they watched in horror, the specks resolved into clearer images. Robots. Billions of microscopic robots, coordinating to systematically break down the Coruscant vessels atom by atom. Nanites, Lykara breathed. But the level of coordination, the programming required, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. Varric stood paralyzed as his mighty fleet was reduced to particles before his eyes. Only the Ravager remained untouched, as if whatever force controlled the Nanites was deliberately sparing them. A new message appeared on screen. ONRE2RNS to TLL the TL. The rest remain with US. Go now. Full retreat, Varric ordered, voice barely audible. Maximum speed. Get us out of this system. As the Ravager turned and fled, accelerating away from the innocuous blue planet, the final images from their rear cameras showed the dissipated matter of their once proud fleet being drawn down toward Earth's surface in glittering streams of particles. They had come to conquer. They were leaving scattered and broken, their technology rendered meaningless, their military might brushed aside like insects. And as the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Commander Varric finally identified the emotion that had been growing within him since they first detected Earth. Fear. Pure, primal fear. Humanity wasn't primitive. Humanity was waiting. The reckoning. The Ravager limped through interstellar space, its once gleaming hull now scared and discolored. What should have been a 3-week journey back to Coruscant territory had stretched into 2 months. Systems continued to fail at an alarming rate, forcing the crew to jury-rig solutions with dwindling resources. Commander Varric hadn't left his quarters in days. The defeat at Earth, no, not defeat, annihilation, had broken something in him. The proud warrior who had conquered 17 worlds now jumped at shadows and spoke in whispers. First Officer Fax had assumed command, though he too was changed. The bioluminescent patterns across his skin no longer pulsed with confidence but flickered erratically, betraying his constant anxiety. Status report, he demanded as he entered the command deck, now operating on emergency power only. Life support stable but operating at minimum capacity, reported Engineering Officer Dren. Her species was adapted to extreme environments, with silicon-based biology that made her more resistant to radiation and temperature fluctuations, a blessing given the ship's deteriorating condition. Navigation still compromised, added the pilot, a young Coruscant named Vex. The guidance system keeps trying to turn us back toward Earth. Fax suppressed a shudder. This had been happening since their escape, as if something had reprogrammed the ship's very core to draw them back to that cursed planet. Override it manually, he ordered. Again. Science Officer Lykara approached, her movements sluggish. Like many of the crew, she hadn't been sleeping. First Officer, we've completed analysis of the material samples collected during our retreat. And, Fax prompted when she hesitated. The nanites appear to be dormant now, but they're unlike anything in our databases. Their construction suggests technology centuries beyond our own. They're capable of communicating across vast distances instantaneously, possibly through quantum entanglement. Are they still a threat? Lykara's scales rippled, a sign of uncertainty. They seem contained, but we've had to isolate 3 sections of the ship where they showed signs of activity. The real concern is what they've already done. They'd been mapping our systems, copying our data. I believe they transmitted everything about us, our biology, our technology, our empire's coordinates, back to Earth before going dormant. The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the command deck. Earth now possessed complete intelligence on the Coruscant Empire, its strengths, its weaknesses, every detail that could be exploited in an attack. First Officer, Communications Officer Ziv called, their gelatinous form pale and translucent with stress. We're picking up a transmission. It's coming from inside the ship. Before Thax could respond, every screen on the command deck flickered and changed to display the same image, a human face. Not a recording or a still image, but a live feed of a human male, middle-aged by their standards, with graying hair and calm blue eyes. "Greetings, survivors of the Coruscant fleet," the human said in perfect Coruscant language. "I trust your journey home has been educational." Thax stared in shock. "How is this possible? Who are you? How are you speaking our language?" The human smiled, an expression that didn't reach those calculating eyes. "My name is Dr. Alexander Mercer, Earth Defense Intelligence. As for how I'm speaking to you, let's just say we've had plenty of time to study your communications while you were in our neighborhood. What do you want?" Thax demanded, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. "To deliver a message," Mercer replied simply, "one that you'll take back to your empire. Consider yourselves fortunate. You're the first alien aggressors we've allowed to return home in over 3 centuries." The screens change, showing images of Earth, but not the primitive, vulnerable world they had observed from orbit. These images revealed vast underground complexes, advanced manufacturing facilities, weapons platforms hidden within asteroids throughout the solar system, and swarms of the nanites that had destroyed their fleet, now being produced in numbers beyond comprehension. "You see," Mercer continued as the images played, "humanity faced a choice long ago. We could announce ourselves to the galaxy, join whatever political structures existed out there, or we could watch and wait, learn from the shadows, prepare." The screens returned to Mercer's face. 300 years ago, the first alien ship entered our solar system. Like you, they came with conquest in mind. We captured their technology, learned their languages, extracted everything they knew about the galaxy. Thax felt his bioluminescence fade to almost nothing as understanding dawned. "You've been intercepting visitors all this time. Learning. Adapting." "Precisely," Mercer nodded. "Each new arrival taught us more. We developed technologies uniquely suited to defend against specific threats. Your fleet, for instance, we had countermeasures designed specifically for Coruscant bioengineering and computational architecture 5 decades ago, just in case you ever found us." "That's impossible," Lycara interjected. "No civilization could advance so quickly." Mercer's smile widened. "No civilization facing outward threats, competing for resources, engaging in traditional expansion. No, but a civilization that turned all its energy inward, that united against external threats, that had access to stolen technology from a dozen different advanced species. That's a different equation entirely." He leaned forward, voice dropping lower. "Humans are remarkably adaptive. You see, we don't just learn technologies. We transform them, combine them in ways their original creators never imagined. While the galaxy saw us as primitive because we weren't out there colonizing planets, we were becoming something new." The screens changed again, showing massive structures orbiting distant stars, stars far beyond Earth's solar system. "We're not confined to Earth," Mercer continued. "We simply choose to keep our home protected while we study the galaxy from afar. Your long-range scans wouldn't detect our outposts. We made sure of that." Thax struggled to process what he was seeing. "Why are you telling us this? Why not just destroy us completely?" "Because we need messengers," Mercer replied matter-of-factly. The nanites you're carrying home with you have already disabled your weapon systems permanently. They'll allow your ship to reach Coruscant space, to deliver our warning to your empire, and through them, to the rest of the galaxy's predatory powers. Every crew member on the command deck froze. The nanites hadn't been contained after all. They had merely switched to a new phase of their programming. "And what is your warning?" Thax asked, already knowing the answer would haunt him for whatever remained of his life. Mercer's expression hardened, all pretense of friendliness vanishing. "Earth is off-limits. Humanity does not wish to conquer, to subjugate, or to destroy. We wish to be left alone to develop in our own way, at our own pace. But if threatened, if any species makes the mistake your fleet made, the response will be absolute." The human's image started to fade, but his voice continued, filling the command deck with a final message. "Consider the ease with which we dismantled your fleet. Consider that we've been studying your kind for centuries. Consider that we now know the location of every Coruscant world, every fleet deployment, every strategic resource. And consider that if we wanted to, we could have sent these nanites to your homeworld instead of sending you back with a warning." The screens went dark, then returned to their normal functions, though none of the officers moved to their stations. They remained frozen, the implications of the human's words sinking in. First Officer, Security Chief Mord finally broke the silence. Could it be a bluff? An elaborate deception to protect a still primitive world? Thax looked at the officer, noting the desperate hope in his expression. Everyone wanted it to be a trick, a clever misdirection by an outmatched species, but the evidence surrounding them, their crippled ship, their decimated fleet, the technological marvels they'd witnessed, told a different story. "No," Thax said quietly. "It's not a bluff. And when we return, we must convince the High Council of that fact." The reception waiting for the Ravager when it finally limped into the orbital station above Korish Prime was not the hero's welcome Commander Varric had imagined when they first set out. Instead, they were met with a quarantine flotilla and armed guards who escorted the crew to isolation chambers. The High Council, 9 of the most powerful Coruscants in the Empire, convened a special tribunal to hear their report. Commander Varric, still a broken shell of his former self, was deemed unfit to testify. The responsibility fell to Thax. Standing before the assembled council in the grand chamber, surrounded by guards and monitoring equipment designed to detect falsehoods, Thax recounted their encounter with Earth. He described the loss of their fleet, the technological superiority they had witnessed, and the warning delivered by the human Mercer. "You expect us to believe," said Councillor Zarn, eldest of the 9, "that a pre-FTL species not only defeated our most advanced fleet, but possesses technology centuries beyond our own, that they have been waiting in isolation, accumulating knowledge and power without our awareness." "I understand your skepticism, honored Counselor," Thax replied. "I would not believe it myself had I not witnessed it. But the evidence is irrefutable. The Ravager's systems remain compromised by their nanites. Our weapons will not function. Our engines operate only at the human's discretion. And yet they let you return," Counselor Vesh noted, her compound eyes narrowing. "Why? If they are as powerful as you claim, why not simply eliminate all witnesses?" "Because they wanted us to deliver their message," Thax explained. "They want to be left alone, but they want the galaxy to know the consequences of trespassing in their territory." Counselor Krath, head of the military command, leaned forward. "No species simply wishes to be left alone when they possess superior firepower. It defies evolutionary logic. If they have the power you describe, why would they not use it to expand, to conquer?" Thax considered this. It was the question that had haunted him throughout their long journey home. I believe they're not like us. Not like any species we've encountered. They don't think in terms of conquest and subjugation. They think in terms of protection and deterrence. Or perhaps, Counselor Zarn suggested, this is merely phase 1 of a more elaborate strategy. Eliminate one fleet, demonstrate power, then wait for us to either attack in greater numbers or sue for peace. Either way, they gain information about our capabilities and intentions. Murmurs of agreement spread through the council. With respect, counselors, Thax said firmly, we cannot approach this threat with conventional strategic thinking. The humans already know our capabilities. They have been studying us, and apparently many other species, for centuries. They do not need to provoke us to learn more. He gestured to the data crystal he had submitted, containing all sensor readings and records from their encounter. Review the evidence. The humans possess technological integration capabilities we've never witnessed. They combine biological, mechanical, and quantum systems seamlessly, and their nanite technology alone represents an existential threat to any species that opposes them. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Coruscant Empire, which had expanded relentlessly for centuries, had encountered something it could not defeat through force. What would you have us do? First Officer Thax, Counselor Vesh finally asked. Surrender? Cower before these humans? Thax's bioluminescence pulsed with determination. I would have us adapt, honored counselor. I would have us respect their boundaries while we develop our own technologies and defenses. The galaxy has changed. We have discovered that we are not the apex predators we believed ourselves to be. After hours of deliberation, the High Council reached its decision. The coordinates of Earth and its solar system were classified at the highest level. All vessels were ordered to avoid the region entirely. Research into countermeasures against nanite technology became the Empire's highest priority. And deep in the secure vaults beneath the council chamber, a message was prepared to be sent to their allies and rivals alike. A warning about a blue planet on the galactic fringe that housed a species unlike any other. A species that had chosen isolation not out of weakness, but as the ultimate expression of strength. A species that had looked at the predatory nature of galactic politics and decided to walk a different path, one that made them the most dangerous force in known space. As Thax stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, looking out at the stars that once promised endless conquest, he wondered what would happen when humanity finally decided to emerge from its self-imposed isolation. Would they come as conquerors, or as something new? Something the galaxy had never seen before. Either way, he knew one thing with absolute certainty: the universe would never be the same again.